Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, it's all kicked off. Nigerian superstar Burna Boy and Shakira whip spectators' energy up for the opening of the World Cup before the opening showdown between South Africa and co-hosts Mexico. Also, the first leap of the Leopards as Africa sends the most teams that it ever has to the tournament. We revisit the legacy of the first team from the continent to head to the World Cup. Back when DRC was still referred to as Zaire, the 1974 squad headed out on the prowl. Meanwhile, hundreds of Nigerians are repatriated from escalating anti-immigrant unrest in South Africa. Many say the loss and violence they suffered will take more than a plane ride to leave behind. But first, the Bafana are back, baby. South Africa and Mexico were the opening game at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City for the North American World Cup. Thursday's was the first of 104 matches between 48 teams in a North American tournament. Sports journalist Kieran Thompson is in Cape Town and joins me now. Kieran, a very exciting Thursday for South Africa, a big one, as it's the first time that they are in a World Cup that they haven't been hosting since 2010, and also facing a team with which some might say they have some unfinished business. What's the build-up been for you from what you've seen in Cape Town?
Good evening, Georgia. Yeah, it's been a mood of excitement, a mood of pride, and one of real optimism. It's the first time, as you mentioned, that Bafana are back at the FIFA World Cup. The last time we were in the World Cup, it was when we hosted it back in 2010. So this time it means a little bit more simply because we made it here on merit. And since qualification was clinched, I think back in, it could have been around March, the excitement and optimism has just grown day by day.
So what about for the rest of the continent? You know, as I mentioned there, it's sent 10 teams, the most that it ever has, to the World Cup. What other teams for you that we should be watching? Where do your expectations lie on a kind of continental level?
I think based on how the 2022 World Cup went in Qatar, we had the very first African nation made it to the semi-finals, that being Morocco. So they obviously set a new benchmark for African football. They made it there, playing a really expansive brand of football. They have some of the world's best players in Achraf Hakimi over there. They've got the likes of, Achraf Hakimi leading that side. So I think they've also just taken that baton for African football a little bit forward. So I think the likes of Senegal will also challenge the Black Stars, Ghana. They are always a team to keep an eye on. I think Senegal will probably have a nice deep run into the tournament. They have a bit of a point to prove, being African champions, but then there was that old debacle around AFCON and who actually won it, and that wasn't left a bit of a sour taste in African football mouth, or the mouths of African football, should I say. And so I think that might just give Senegal a little bit more impetus to go and show the world who they are and why they are African champions. I think Egypt as well, with Mohamed Salah and Omar Mamouche, will definitely play a big role as well.
What have you seen change within the professionalization of the footballing scene of the African continent, or just within South Africa, if you prefer to specialize just within your home country?
Well, to start on a larger scale with African football, it's grown in leaps and bounds. We are starting to see a lot more African footballers being regarded as some of the world's best. I think of guys like Mohamed Salah, Victor Osimhen, Achraf Hakimi, who I mentioned a couple minutes ago. And these are now world-renowned stars, bringing things back home to South Africa. We have guys like Mbekezeli Mbokazi, who's one of our gems who have come through the ranks with Orlando Pirates, and he's now doing the business over in the MLS. And he's actually made quite a big splash over there in a positive sense. He is someone who many regard in South African football as the next gem. Him along with a guy like Rele Pohile Mofokeng, who's got attacking outlet and promise, just that boy's ceiling is absolutely ridiculous. But it speaks to the grassroots developmental systems that have been put in place in South Africa. We've seen it a little bit with women's football, although that's still coming along. A lot more can be done, but the fact that South Africa, Banyana, the women's team, they recently were crowned African champions a couple of years ago. So that always just boosts that development just by a year or two. And the Bafana, the men's team, they've come on in leaps and bounds since we were last competitive. We've become a little bit accustomed to having a few jokes about Bafana locally. So they are a lot more serious now, that much I can say.
Kieran Thompson, thank you so much for giving us a talk through and wishing you the very best for the outcome that you clearly want for this World Cup. Thanks very much, Kieran. Well, on Thursday, Europe's footballing body, UEFA, said that Somali World Cup referee refused entry to the States for the World Cup had been selected to referee the European Super Cup final between Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa in August. Omar Aten had a valid visa, but the State Department claimed that he was prevented from officiating because of vetting concerns upon his arrival in Miami this week. He's considered one of Africa's best referees. Well, some of the world's best footballers are African, but the continent's performance at the World Cup in its own right has trended patchy over the years. But precedents have to be set to then be triumphantly broken. And Morocco's 2022 campaign took it to the semi-finals and reset the continent's own benchmarks. But before that, in 1974, when DR Congo was still called Zaire, the Leopards were the first sub-Saharan African squad to roar into action at the World Cup. A legacy worth more appreciation than it perhaps received. Our team report.
Inside these boxes are thousands of photographs. They're the result of a career spanning more than 50 years.
These are negatives. Back then, we used negatives.
Etienne Kokolo snapped his first photograph in the early 1970s. As an avid football fan, he decided to follow the epic journey of the Leopards of Zaire, the first team from sub-Saharan Africa to take part in a World Cup. That was back in 1974 in West Germany. And one player in particular made a lasting impression. A Congolese footballer scored 3 goals in a single match, a national record.
Here you have the player Ndaye Mutu. He holds the record for the most goals scored in a competition final, and it has never been equalled.
These are moments that are etched in the memories of the former stars of Congolese football. Now retired, they enjoy meeting up in the heart of Kinshasa in this bar that bears their name. They exchange stories and share memories. At 77, Ekofa Mbungu, who played striker, remembers the goal that took them to the World Cup as if it were yesterday.
I saw an opening on the pitch, I called out to Kokoko to pass me the ball, and I shot past the defenders to score. And when I scored, the stadium erupted like a volcano. It was incredible. We all had tears of joy.
But ultimately, the team's glory was short-lived. The Leopards were knocked out in the first round of the 1974 World Cup. Their welcome home was harsh. No one greeted them at the airport. The players recall this period with bitterness.
I have a lot of regrets. Together with my friends, we showcased the Zairean flag across the world for the first time. And today we've been abandoned. The money we were promised was embezzled. Some of us died without recognition and in total poverty.
Despite these bitter memories, the former football stars are following the current national team closely. They hope that the new crop of players will, in turn, write a new chapter in the history of Congolese football.
Well, a group of more than 260 Nigerians have arrived back in Lagos after having been flown out on emergency flights to escape growing xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Many of those who arrived home on Thursday say that they will carry the lifelong psychological scars over their time in South Africa.
My child is going to their school. The teachers, they treat her bad because she's in Nigeria. They pull her. My husband is shot in South Africa of recent. The third day they bury her like a chicken.
Well, the Nigerian government's repatriating about 1,000 of its nationals, like Ghana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Malawi. It's bringing its people home from South Africa ahead of a June 30th deadline anti-migrant groups have given for undocumented immigrants to leave or face an escalation of targeting. Samuel Okoya tells us more.
The first batch of Nigerians fleeing xenophobic attacks in South Africa arrived home at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. They are more than happy to be back home after surviving recent violence that targeted Nigerians and other immigrants in South Africa. Many of them have lived in South Africa for several years and have established their lives there. Among them are children. Many of them are coming home for the first time. Back home, the returnees will face the difficult task of building a new life and settling to new realities in a country that is battling serious economic crisis. Many of them left Nigeria in the first place because of the harsh conditions at home. But nothing can be worse than the harassment, discrimination, the threats to life and property they faced in South Africa. Nigeria's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Shola Enikonlaya, assured the returnees that life will be better for them at home.
I know the kind of trauma that my people have gone through. We are very sorry that this exists. But Mr. President has asked me to welcome you back home. Home is home. And to assure you that he is doing everything possible by way of various reforms to make the home good for all of us.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says additional evacuation flights are expected in the coming days as the government plans to repatriate about 1,000 Nigerians who have registered to voluntarily return home. The number of returnees may grow as the number of Nigerians seeking repatriation continues to rise. A screening exercise for those wishing to be repatriated has been extended to allow more Nigerians to register for evacuation.
That's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us, though, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.